Muhammad Ali was understood by millions, his charisma, his confidence, his dominance inside the ring. To the public, he wasn't just a fighter, he was a symbol. But symbols are built in the spotlight, and what happens away from it tells a different story. Larry Holmes wasn't just another opponent. He was there in the training camps, in the closed gyms, in the quiet rounds that never made the news. He didn't just fight Ali. He worked alongside him, close enough to feel every shift in timing, every change in speed, and over time, he saw what the cameras couldn't. To the world, Muhammad Ali was unlike any heavyweight who had come before. He moved with a fluidity that seemed to contradict his size. Inside the ring, he redefined how the sport was fought. Outside it, his words carried the same force as his punches. Your fights like the rumble in the jungle elevated him beyond sport entirely. What the public saw was a man who appeared invincible, even as the years passed. What they didn't see was what was happening beneath that image, because behind the confidence and the showmanship, the accumulated toll of a career spent absorbing punishment was beginning to show. Most people understood the legend. Few understood the man. Long before he held a title, Larry Holmes was a sparring partner. He wasn't there for recognition. He was there to push Ali, to absorb what others couldn't, and to learn. Day after day, round after round, Holmes worked inside Ali's world in a way no journalist or fan ever could. He felt Ali's timing. He studied his rhythm. He absorbed every feint, every subtle adjustment. And over time, he also began to notice the changes. Slight delays in reaction. Movements that carried a new kind of effort. These weren't things visible from the crowd. Holmes could feel them because he had felt the earlier version to compare against. That proximity gave him a perspective no one else had. To the public, Ali still looked like Ali. The voice was the same. The presence was the same. The aura that filled an arena before he ever threw a punch remained intact. But Holmes was close enough to notice what the image concealed. In the gym, reactions that had once been instinctive now arrived a fraction late. Movements that had once been effortless carried a new weight. Between rounds, the fatigue was more visible, more present. These weren't signs of weakness. They were signs of time, of a career that had demanded more than any body could sustain indefinitely. Holmes understood what most people around Ali chose not to acknowledge, that the fighter was running on will and pride, while the physical tools that had once made him exceptional were declining. By 1980, Ali was returning to the ring against the man who had once sparred for him. The Holmes versus Ali fight carried a weight that was difficult to articulate. Promoters framed it as a comeback. Fans chose to believe in one final chapter. Holmes had no such illusions. He had felt both versions of Ali, the one in his prime and the one standing across from him now. The difference wasn't subtle to him, and that knowledge made the situation genuinely uncomfortable. This wasn't a rivalry. Holmes had admired Ali. He had learned from him. And now he was being asked to fight him in front of the world. Boxing doesn't accommodate sentiment. The fight was made, and Holmes prepared to do what the sport required of him. When the fight began, Holmes was controlled and precise. His jab, among the finest in heavyweight history, landed cleanly and consistently. Technically, he was in command from the opening rounds. Ali produced brief moments that recalled an earlier version of himself. A movement, a quick combination, flashes of the fighter he had been. But every exchange reinforced the same conclusion. His reactions were slower. His body absorbed punishment he would once have avoided. And Holmes, despite his dominance, visibly held back. He hesitated after clean shots. He did not press the way a champion chasing a finish typically would. Round after round, and the outcome became clearer. Holmes wasn't simply winning. He was exposing something the public had refused to accept. And with each round, The gap between the Ali the world remembered and the Ali in the ring became harder to ignore. In the later rounds, Ali could no longer mount a credible defense. He absorbed punishment without the ability to respond effectively. Holmes continued doing what the fight required, but there was nothing resembling satisfaction in it. The end came when Angelo Dundee stopped the fight from the corner. There was no knockout. There was no triumphant moment. Holmes didn't raise his arms. He turned away from the moment, visibly affected by what had just taken place. He had defended his title. He had also been the instrument through which the world was forced to confront a truth it had been avoiding. As the public response was not kind to Holmes. Rather than acknowledging what he had witnessed, a fighter past his prime being allowed to compete when he perhaps should not have been, many directed their anger at the man who had beaten him. Holmes was booed. He was accused of being excessive, of punishing a legend unnecessarily. The criticism said more about the audience's unwillingness to accept reality than it did about Holmes's conduct inside the ring. Holmes had not created the situation. He had simply revealed it. And he became the face of a truth that was easier to reject than confront. With distance, the perception began to shift. Holmes never spoke about that night with any satisfaction. When he discussed Ali, it was always with respect, and with the particular weight of someone who had known the man, not just the image. He had seen Ali at his peak. He had felt what made him exceptional. He had also seen the gradual change that others around Ali had chosen to overlook. That combination, knowing what Ali had been and understanding what he had become, gave Holmes a perspective that was genuinely singular. Ali kept fighting because walking away was not in his nature. Holmes understood that. He also understood the cost of it. In the years that followed, history treated both men more fairly. Ali remains what he always was, one of the most consequential figures in the history of sport. Holmes came to be understood not as a villain, but as a fighter placed in an impossible position, a champion who performed his duty. A man who, perhaps more clearly than anyone else in that era, I understood what was happening to Muhammad Ali, and carried that understanding long after the fight was over.